Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Neon. We're going to talk about the Rise of Skywalker, or is that the fall of the Rise of Skywalker? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen at the box office because we're getting mixed messages. We're getting mixed messages from different media outlets depending on how they feel about the Star Wars franchise. I think. But there seems to be some data that supports that the Rise of Skywalker might be the lowest opening of the new trilogy. So maybe those pre-sales weren't as indicative of this movie's success as people were hoping. So before we get into the video, please subscribe if you have not subscribed to CLOWNFISH TV. We talk about pop culture, news and views, and all the crazy stuff going on in pop culture right now, whether it's movies or comics or animation or anime. We do try to cover what interests us, what we think would interest our followers. So please give us a sub. Okay, so just a couple days ago, comic book resources, you gotta love comic book resources, they were rubbing it in the faces of the haters, the man babies, the people who aren't on board with Star Wars since The Last Jedi. Some before The Last Jedi, they were like The Force Awakens was ass-tastic, and they just weren't on board with the Disney version of Star Wars. So of course, comic book resources in a very clickbaity style. Rise of Skywalker pre-sales record proves fan boycott, in quotes, was an empty threat. Everybody loves new Star Wars haters and man babies. This is that Anthony dude. Yeah, he doesn't like me very much. I guess we covered his articles before, and he went on some Twitter rant. Somebody told me he went on some Twitter rant, and I didn't even see it. I don't even know what's going on. Anyway, comic book resources, rubbing it in the fans' faces for clicks, I think. But then, this was a couple days ago. Or this was yesterday. Today, 5 hours ago, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is tracking for a huge opening, but lowest of new trilogy. So, a lot of people were burnt on The Last Jedi, myself included, Geeky included. We did not like the movie at all. We thought it definitely took a steaming dump on the character of Luke Skywalker, and made very little sense as a movie. The characters wound up in pretty much the exact same place they were at the beginning of the movie, just with Luke being dead. So, we've been hearing that a lot of people were not going to go see this movie, including a lot of Star Wars fans. Now, we do have friends that love The Last Jedi, and they were actually some of the first to buy tickets the other night when the tickets went on sale. But a lot of people we talked to aren't interested. So we're thinking, well, the pre-sales should be down. Well, the pre-sales were supposedly smashing all kinds of records. And then we did a video yesterday talking about how some YouTubers are calling that into question, saying that a lot of these seats look like they were bought in the same kind of pattern. I know personally we have had people come to us saying that they went to buy seats and all the good seats were taken before there would have even been a chance to buy them. So now some people are speculating that maybe Disney or somebody is up to something to make it look like this movie's going to be a bigger hit than it actually is, because so much is riding on it. This would be the third strike for Star Wars. After the failure of Solo, after the failure of Galaxy's Edge, they can't have Rise of Skywalker fail too. But it does sound like it might be tracking lower than the other two movies in the new trilogy, in the sequel trilogy. So this is coming from Cinema Blend. How much money will Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker make in its opening weekend? One early box office forecast is in, and it's huge, but huge is relative when it comes to Star Wars. That's true. Any other studio would have been thrilled with Solo, with the performance of Solo. I think it did 85-ish million opening weekend, but we're talking about a Star Wars movie in May that cost significantly more than that because they had so many reshoots, and it dropped off a cliff. It only made I don't even think it broke 400 million worldwide. Okay, so the 2019 movie is projected to potentially have a lower opening weekend box office than The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, which would make sense because a lot of people are burnt on this trilogy. They're burnt on Disney Star Wars. Considering Episode 9 pre-sales just broke some records, it might be worth raising an eyebrow at any lower estimates. Again, a lot of people, myself included, are seeing some weird stuff with the pre-sales, And Solo also had massive pre-sales, and it wound up vastly underperforming. I mean, they had totally missed the mark. It wasn't even like we were a couple million off. It was like it was projected to make, 150, 160 million, and that was adjusted down from 200 million, and it wound up making 85 million. And that's with these record-breaking pre-sales. So don't be surprised. I would not be surprised if Episode 9 does not perform as well as they were expecting, especially since we're going to have a repeat of 2017. There's going to be another Jumanji movie coming out, and I don't know how that's going to do, to tell you the truth. The first one, well, I guess it would actually be the sequel to Jumanji, but I actually liked it quite a bit. I'm not real sure about the sequel, but it is going to definitely take some of the family audience away from Star Wars. So Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker isn't opening for another 2 months, but the box office prognosticators are already hard at work crunching opening weekend numbers. Box Office Pro posted its long-range forecast for Episode 9. Opening weekend range, currently at 185 to 225 million. Opening weekend estimate, 200 million for the 3-day opening December 20th through the 22nd. Domestic total range, 550 to 750 million. Sometimes Box Office Pro is close, sometimes not. An Episode 9 opening weekend in that range would be a drop from Star Wars The Force Awakens, which set a record at the time with its 248 million opening weekend in 2015. Well, yeah, it was the first Star Wars in 10 years. It was the first Disney Star Wars. It was the first Star Wars since the 1980s to feature the original cast, the original trilogy. Yeah, people were crazy excited for it. Of course they're going to go see it. And then, unfortunately, it did not live up to the hype for a lot of people. And then The Last Jedi just kind of went further down the rabbit hole. That movie went on to be the current leader as the highest grossing movie of all time at the domestic box office. Endgame has the worldwide title, which includes the foreign box office. Episode 8, The Last Jedi, had an opening weekend of 220 million in 2017. So if The Rise of Skywalker opens on the higher end of Box Office Pro's forecast, it could top The Last Jedi. I do not believe The Rise of Skywalker is going to top The Last Jedi. I do not believe it's going to top The Last Jedi. I think there's so many people burnt on Star Wars at this point. I don't think it's going to flop, but I don't think it's going to top The Last Jedi. I'd be very, very surprised. And I could be wrong. And I'll admit it now. I could be wrong, but I just really, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. The site is currently going with 200 million for Rise of Skywalker's opening, but leaving the door open for more. That is some wishful thinking, son. That is some wishful thinking. I'd open that door a lot wider if it were me. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so now we're veering off from facts and into what this author thinks. I do think Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is going to pass The Last Jedi at the box office, and I think that will start with opening weekend. Yes, there is anger out there after The Last Jedi, and some fans are in no rush to watch The Rise of Skywalker in the theaters. It's also apples to oranges to compare pre-sales for Avengers to Star Wars, since the early ticket rush from hardcore Star Wars fans may not be emblematic of a larger mainstream rush to see the final Star Wars movie ever opening weekend. It's not going to be the final Star Wars movie. It's going to be the final Skywalker movie, but Disney is going to milk the shit out of this franchise. They paid $4 billion for it, and they're going to milk the shit out of it. There will be Star Wars movies in some form or another from now until the end of time, whether or not people actually want them. That is the truth. I still think if The Force Awakens opened to 247 million, The Last Jedi opened to 220, that Rise of Skywalker will open somewhere in between that. No. As Box Office Pro even noted, Star Wars trilogies have established a pattern of the first movie making the most money, the second one declining significantly, and the third rebounding for second best performance. That may well happen again, because now we're looking at The Force Awakens versus The Last Jedi. Now, this actually really puts it in perspective. And I can tell you what happened here. And this is, look, The Force Awakens worldwide did over $2 billion. Just domestic, it did almost $1 billion domestic. Now, if you really want to go there, Joker's doing pretty damn good, because it's not even playing in China. And I think we were reading something today, it just passed $800 million. So domestic, $936 million. So Star Wars Last Jedi, domestic 620. That is a huge drop off. That's a huge drop off. You know, And I can tell you kind of what happened here. So at least with the prequels, now I can't really speak to The Empire Strikes Back, but there is a lie going around that people did not like The Empire Strikes Back when it came out. That is not true. That is not true. I don't remember anybody talking about hating The Empire Strikes Back, and I was alive back then. I mean, I was very young, but I was alive, and I don't remember anybody hating on The Empire Strikes Back. Regarding Attack of the Clones, this is a no-brainer. There's a couple things going on here. One, a lot of people were burnt on The Phantom Menace. They thought it was doofy, it was too kiddie, it had too much Jar Jar, didn't feel quite like Star Wars. There were a lot of complaints. Personally, I do like the prequel trilogy. I think it gets a lot of really unfair flack, but a lot of people did not like the prequels. They did not like The Phantom Menace in particular, and they did not turn up for Attack of the Clones. And it could be argued, at least from my point of view, that Attack of the Clones is the worst of the prequel movies. I think it probably is the worst of the three, for a number of reasons, you know. So yeah, people weren't turning out for it because they were burnt on The Phantom Menace. The word of mouth was like, this movie's not that great, you know, and they didn't really show up. The third movie, they beat the nostalgia drum really damn hard, and it also tied directly into Episode 4. We had Darth Vader. We had the Fall of the Jedi. We had, Revenge of the Sith was basically Palpatine's movie, which I think they're trying to do with the Rise of Skywalker, but I think they're going to drop the ball. So there was a lot going on with the Revenge of the Sith that won people back, that maybe checked out for the second one. I don't know. That's, again, that is my opinion. But you can see, and this is not an opinion, these are facts. You can see that there was a huge drop in interest from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, and I think some of this was word of mouth. I think a lot of people turned out opening weekend. You're going to get the Star Wars diehards that turned out opening weekend, but The Force Awakens was polarizing. Not as much as The Last Jedi, but a lot of people felt it did the classic trilogy characters dirty, that it was just a remake of A New Hope, that Rey was a Mary Sue. There were a litany of complaints about it. Again, not as bad as The Last Jedi, but a lot of people left the theater kind of scratching their head like, what, did I just see the same movie I saw, 30 plus years ago again? I mean, what happened here? So they didn't turn out for The Last Jedi. And also when The Last Jedi dropped, the word of mouth was, wow, this movie is god-awful. It's not good. And there was a huge drop off. And I remember that. I remember it just like dropping off a freaking cliff, because once the word got out that the movie was pretty shit, a lot of people didn't like it. People didn't go see it. They're like, wait, they killed Luke too? They already killed Han. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see this. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to get anywhere near this, especially now with Star Wars being a damaged brand. I mean, I'm sorry. Toys are not selling. Solo flopped. Nobody's going to Galaxy's Edge just to go to Galaxy's Edge. They'll go to Disney if they want to go to Disney, but it's not doing good. So, Cinema Blend, again, going on to say that The Rise of Skywalker should pass $1 billion easily. And I do agree with the total domestic projection of 550 to 750 million, considering how massive that gap is. I'd estimate in the higher side. Always look on the bright side of life. Higher than the 620 million of The Last Jedi, but almost certainly lower than the 936 million of The Force Awakens. If J.J. Abrams hits The Rise of Skywalker out of the park, with the reshoots, with the meddling, with all of the problems that are reportedly going on with this movie, the fact that they're still filming the damn movie this close to release, not a good sign. Not a good sign. Word of mouth in the fandom is extremely positive. That will not happen. That is not going to happen. Like it has been for most of the trailer footage. Has it? I don't think it has. I don't think it's been that positive. Most of what I'm seeing is like, meh. I'm talking normies. I'm not talking people who are diehard Star Wars fans or people who are, anti-Star Wars now or anti-Disney Star Wars. I'm talking just the general public is like, meh. So this movie is meant to end with a mind-blowing final shot for the franchise. I'm excited to see it. People are going to want to avoid spoilers, and that means seeing it themselves first. How do you think it's going to do? It's not gonna do as well. I don't think it will do well. First comment. The overseas market will be its biggest downfall. Yeah, let's talk about that. The overseas market will be its biggest downfall. Now, last week we talked about how Maleficent bombed in Japan. Maleficent bombed in Japan, whereas the first movie did like 60 or 70 million. And it was a pretty big hit. But Maleficent bombed in Japan. It only did like $2 million or $3 million. And that was with them pushing it really, really hard on YouTube. Pushing Angelina Jolie on YouTube. They were trying to generate buzz for this movie. And the overseas audience did not care. So, curious thing happened, and we had a couple people write to us and point this out. The trailer, the Japanese trailer, is missing. They had 2 million views on it, and it's missing. The comments are closed. This is the official Disney Japan YouTube, and it's gone. They pulled the trailer down. Why did they pull the trailer down? You know, I don't know why they pulled it down, but we had a couple people write us and be like, hey, did you know that they pulled the Japanese trailer down? It's gone. It's MIA. So perhaps this movie is not going to play as well in Japan as they were hoping. And 2 million views, it's not great. I mean, it's not great since October 21st, not for a Star Wars movie. So let's just put this in perspective. And I want to talk about the English version of the Rise of Skywalker trailer. Currently sits at 23 million views. And it's been up for about a week. First comment, I have no idea what the trilogy is about. So that sounds impressive. 23 million sounds impressive until you go out to Google Trends. And you go out to see what's trending. One, it stopped trending a couple of days ago. Mr. Beast wants to plant 20 million trees, and in 2 days he's got 20 million views. This is just a guy. This isn't Lucasfilm, this isn't Disney, this is a guy. Has almost as many views as the Star Wars trailer on YouTube. Let's go down the list here and just see how underwhelming the view count is for a franchise as big as Star Wars. Going down the list here, we have a lot, 7 million, 10 million. Here's 42 million. Selena Gomez. 3 days ago, just Selena Gomez by herself, 42 million views. That makes sense. It's YouTube, you know. But there were some other ones here that were like, oh my God, this makes Star Wars look really sad. Selena Gomez, 72 million views. Man, she's making bank. She's making bank. Odd Ones Out, animation channel on YouTube. Subway 4, a week ago, same time as Rise of Skywalker, 17 million views. Again, just some guy that does little cartoon videos. Making bank. Rise of Skywalker, 5 days ago, massive push. Trailer pushed on ESPN, all the pop culture sites talking about it. Should be, the most viewed thing on YouTube, 23 million views. Now, I would kill for any of my videos to have 23 million views. What's this? The Daddy Yankee, 39 million. But I'm just saying, this is Star Wars. This is Star Wars. Star Wars used to be a cultural event. It was a thing. It was, people took off work to go see the special editions, the prequels. It was a massive cultural phenomenon. And now Mr. Beast is planting trees and he's got almost as many views as the Star Wars trailer. I just want to put that out there. And then the trailer's missing from Japan. So I don't think, it's wishful thinking on the part of this guy that wrote this article, but I don't think it's accurate. I think it's going to come in lower. I think it's going to break 100 million easy, but I don't think it's going to be $200 million opening weekend. I don't think it's going to be. Disney has really been very, very good, with the exception of Endgame, at overinflating the projections. Look at Maleficent. Maleficent bombed $36 million. Now it's losing again to the Joker. Maleficent was supposed to make almost twice that. Opening weekend, it didn't. Maleficent, the first one, $69 million in Japan, like $3 million. $3 million. Like everybody else gets that Star Wars is broken. except for Disney. And they own the damn thing. And they don't seem to get that it's broken, that the people are not going to come out in the numbers that they did for the other movies. Especially after not being, after being called names, especially after all the drama surrounding it. A lot of people just checked out completely. They don't care one way or the other. They're just like, I'm over Star Wars. LRM talking about how Star Wars has become strangely political. And they're right. After The Last Jedi, the Star Wars fandom split into two bitter factions that may hate each other more than the Democrats hate the Republicans. One side of the fandom loves the middle entry to the sequel trilogy, The Last Jedi, and touts anything they can to prove the other side is wrong, and Star Wars isn't on the decline. It's okay. It's fine. The haters will point to anything they can to show that their boycotts and closed wallets are effective. As with most things in life, the truth is in the middle, and I agree. I do. I think that there are a lot of people who still like Star Wars, any Star Wars, Disney Star Wars or otherwise, but you cannot deny that there are a large percentage of Star Wars fans, Star Wars super fans even, who feel disenfranchised by Disney's handling of the saga, and it shows in the sales. It shows, Solo should not have bombed. Solo should not have bombed. Galaxy's Edge, they should have been turning people away, and they're begging people to come. The toys are literally collecting dust on the shelves. If the stores are even stocking them. Force Friday, a lot of Walmarts had a very, very slim section of Star Wars toys. Ours, the closest Walmart to us, had maybe a case of figures put out, and then they had a pallet full of toys. And most of that stuff is still sitting there collecting dust. Some people are reporting that Star Wars merchandise, brand new Star Wars merchandise, is already on clearance. You go to the dollar stores and it's just, cluttered with Star Wars stuff. I mean, there are Walmarts out there that still have Snoke and Rose action figures for 50 cents on clearance, and they can't give them away. So you can't tell me it's not a damaged brand. Now, is this going to affect the box office? Hell yeah, it's going to affect the box office. It still might do good, but it's not going to do as good as it could have had this franchise been handled better. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.